Minister, thank you so much for joining us. Tell us about Bolivia's message to the Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues at the United Nations.
Son 18 años de la declaración.
It has been 18 years since the declaration in favor of Indigenous peoples.
Realmente fortalecer esta agenda.
We believe that this agenda really needs to be strengthened so that Indigenous peoples would not be the only ones in this forum who can discuss, but rather to ensure that the proposals and strategies of Indigenous peoples are truly reflected in many policies and programs. For example, within COP30, because several COPs have been held up to this point, and we continue to see that Indigenous peoples have not had a very important role to play.
Tiene una participación muy importante.
We consider that Indigenous peoples have made progress. Bolivia has at least been a driving force of various resolutions and proposals to recognize Indigenous peoples. But we see that there are still states, there are countries, where although they have made a commitment at the United Nations, they have not yet translated that into policy. While in Bolivia, it is recognized in the political constitution of the state and other laws that are binding on the rights of Indigenous peoples.
Vinculantes a los derechos de los pueblos indígenas.
So we hope that in this space, at this summit, of this meeting of Indigenous peoples, we can see results, and the results are binding on states and countries. That way, these results will be truly on the agenda, not only recognizing the rights of Indigenous peoples, but rather assuming responsibility for the fact that Indigenous peoples also have rights to a social life or a cultural life.
En que los pueblos indígenas también tenemos.
We have the right to participate in the decisions in all spheres in each country.
Toma de decisiones de todas las esferas en cada país.
Everyone around the world is experiencing record-breaking temperatures, seeing more extreme storms. Can you tell us more about the impact of climate change on Indigenous populations and what you have experienced, what you've seen from when you were a young girl to what you see today?
Realmente me doy cuenta que
I really realize that it's changed a lot from what it used to be before to what it is now. Now we have droughts or heavy rains that often destroy crops and affect the small plots of land because the flooding of the rivers is too much.
ya, antes teníamos vertientes para sacar agua.
We used to have springs to get water, but now these springs no longer have water. Or we have many hailstorms that also destroy production. We have early frosts that destroy production as well.
Tenemos heladas tempranas.
So climate change, the climate crisis, of course it has a big impact.
Puesto que afecta mucho.
Who is most affected? It's especially the poorest people. And among the poorest are women, because women are those of us who remain in the countryside, in the indigenous villages. It is they who are truly us who suffer most from the consequences of the climate crisis.
Consecuencia de la crisis climática.
And that is why, from the Forum of Indigenous Communities, we have to demand, we have to insist that in all the spaces, that when discussing the climate crisis, let these agendas and proposals truly become a reality.
Ya, de verdad sean estas agendas.
Indigenous peoples are protectors of forests. We are guardians of the rivers because we are the ones who are close to them. Of water, we are those who are close to nature. In other words, breathing oxygen and pure air is very healthy. But it is sad when we see forests and biodiversity are being burned. So it's very important.
Entonces es muy importante, ¿no?
Above all, I am calling for women to play a role in decision-making, a role in involvement in the decision and in the implementation of these policies. Because until now, women are aware of these policies, but we are not involved in these decisions.
De todas esas políticas, pero no somos parte.
So I think that it is very important that those of us who live with the consequences of the climate crisis should also have a voice and a presence in these decision-making spaces.
La presencia en estos espacios de decisión.
Minister, you just spoke about Indigenous women You are the foreign minister of a South American country. You're also an Indigenous leader, and you're also a woman. Tell us a little bit about some of the challenges you faced and what advice you have for other Indigenous young girls and women who want to accomplish the things that you have.
que tenemos que ser
That we have to be active within the agenda and the demands for our rights, and above all, the defense of women's demands. Although we have made progress, we still have a long way to go. Today, women still do not exercise our full rights as established in the United Nations Declaration, and many times of the laws in our country.
en nuestro país.
Minister Celinda Sosa Lunda, thank you for joining us.